This video will be about powers of 10 and the zero law of exponents. So as we discussed earlier in the day, when we have anything raised to the power of 0, we're always going to get an answer of 1. Now that works in a few different ways, and we'll give you an example if you'd like. So let's pick B. So remember, any number raised to the power of 0 will always give us 1. So the answer to this, 9 raised to the power of 0, will be 1. Now, if we will discuss this later on when we start talking about the divisibility rules for exponents. But essentially what's happening is if you have 9 divided by 9, we know we get an answer of 1. With laws of exponents, there's a rule that says 9 to the power of 1, which would be the power here, divided by 9 to the power of 1, which would be the power here. The law says when dividing powers with the same base, which would be 9, we just subtract the exponents. So 9 to the power of 1 divided by 9 to the power of 1 would give me 9 to the power of 0, because 1 minus 1 would be 0. And if 9 to the power of 1 divided by 9 to the power of 1 equals 1 here, it also must equal 1 here. So for anything raised to the power of 0, you're always going to get 1. So let's continue on with number 5. Remember, the rule says anything raised to the power of 0 gives me 1. Now, it's tricky on these two questions because they look very similar, and they are very similar. However, the brackets are in there. So anything raised to the power of 0 gives me 1. This 0 here applies to everything in the bracket, so essentially it doesn't really matter what's in the bracket. Your answer has to be 1. Whereas B, negative 11 raised to the power of 0. The 0 only applies to the 11. It does not apply to the negative. If it did apply to the negative, it would have to be written as in brackets. Everything applies, the 0 would apply to everything in the bracket. In this situation here, it does not. It only applies to the 11. So your answer in this situation is negative 1. So now we're going to get a little bit bigger here, and so we can look at number 6. So it says write each number as a power of 10. Anything written as a power of 10 has to be 10 to the power of something. That's what a power of 10 is. A power of 2 or base 2 is 2 to the power of something. Now again, we're looking for powers of 10. The easiest way is just to think of the basics. For example, the number 10 is just 10 to the power of 1. The number 100 is just 10 to the power of 2, because 10 times 10 equals 100. And now if you start looking at tricks, 2 zeros, power of 2. So if I look at A, 1000 really means 10 times 10 times 10, therefore 10 to the power of 3, or the trick, there's 3 zeros. So we'll move it up a bit. And the next question, number 7, write the number 1 as a power in 3 different ways. Well, this simply you could do, I'll get my pen, 10 to the power of 0 would give me 1. 7 to the power of 0 would give me 1. 1 to the power of 8 is 1 times 1 times 1, 8 times, would give me 1, and so on and so on and so on. Number 8, evaluate each power of 10. When we say evaluate, we are looking for an answer in standard form, and standard form is the way that you would actually write it. If I asked you what your birthday was or how old you were, you would say I'm 13, I'm 14. That's a standard answer. You wouldn't say I'm 13 raised to the power of 0, or I'm 13 raised to the power of 1. You wouldn't answer that way. That's exponential form. A standard form is the actual answer that you're going to give someone, just a normal answer. So evaluate, put it in standard form. 10 to the power of 2 means 10 times 10, which is 100, or 2 zeros. 10 to the power of 6 would have 6 zeros, so 1 and 6 zeros. So that would be 1 million. Number 9, use powers of 10 to rate each number. So I'll give you an easy one, or not an easy one, but I'll do one that's easy for me. This will be the same as 2 multiplied by 100, which now is the same as 2 multiplied by 10 to the power of 2. Now it's getting a little bit more complicated, so I'm going to try to erase some of this. So for example, let's look at a challenging one. Well, they're all kind of challenging, but we'll look at one of these ones. We'll look at C. Oh, stop moving. So this is 5, or 50,000, plus 1,000, plus 400, plus 10, plus 5. I can break it down like that. I'm expanding this. It's like blowing up a balloon. You take something small and you blow it up with something bigger. That's called expanding. 50,000 is 5 times 10,000. 1,000 is 1 times 10 to the power of 3, or 1,000. 400 is 4 times 100. 10, if you want, and 5, because 5 is the same as 5 times 1. 5 times 1. Now what we're going to do is we're going to write all that together. And this will be 5 times 10 to the power of 4 plus 1 times 10 to the power of 3 plus 4 times 10 to the power of 2 plus 10 times 10 to the power of 1, and I should have wrote smaller, apologize for that, plus 5 times 10 to the power of 0. Now it looks like a lot of work, but the question does say use powers of 10 to write it out. So you just can't say plus 5, plus 10. You have to use powers of 10 in order to write out the question correctly. So now we'll flip to the next page and we'll do a couple questions on that side. So remember on this one it says write in standard form for number 10. So let's make it a little bit bigger. And standard form is the actual answer that you would give somebody. So let's do B. 3 times 10 to the power of 4 is going to be 30,000. We're going to add to that 9 times 10 to the power of 3, which is 9,000. We're going to add to that 5 times 10 to the power of 1, which is 50. And then we're going to add to that 7 times 10 to the power of 1, which is 7 times 1, which is 7. When we add all these together, we get 39,057. This is a standard answer that you would give somebody. You would never give someone an answer like that. That's an expanded answer. So standard answer would be a form that you would give a regular person on the street or whatever you need to do. Okay, so we'll move this down a bit. Number 10, again, you're just going to be writing these in powers of 10 like we did on the other page, so you'll have to figure that one out. And number 11, how do you know which one is greater? My advice, for number 13, is you'll just have to figure out the standard answer for each of these. So here, that's 4,000. This one here is 20,000. And this one here is going to be 7 times 10 with 7 zeros. think that's 7, 6, plus 7 times 1,000, and he's got to figure out, is it bigger than that number? Is this number here bigger than this number? So take the expanded form, put it into standard form, and once you've done that, and then you'll be easily to just compare the two numbers, which one's greater. Well, I hope that video helps. If you have any questions, again, you know where to find me.